everybody. So for my journal, I just decided to do a video, a reflective journal on the video that we watched that was the interview with Samuel Simmons. So the questions are, what are the negative effects of historical trauma and racial trauma on behavioral and medical health? After watching the interview, I feel like this is a really loaded question. Really because I was just so fascinated with the idea of historical trauma and racial trauma that they talked about. I think Samuel Simmons did an excellent job really explaining what those types of trauma look like and how they're experienced and why we should pay attention to them. I think historical trauma has a significant impact on behavioral and medical health. One of the things that he talked about was how people with historical trauma or racial trauma, experience things like higher rates of diabetes and other illnesses. And I think that that's something to pay attention to because there's more stress involved, there's, PTSD symptoms involved to pay attention to. So for medical health, I think it's really, the negative effects are extremely impactful. Behavioral health, a couple of things that he talked about really, really struck me. One was the angry black man. And I don't have a racist bone in my body. Like, I just love everybody and I just think the best of everybody. But I know that in my head, I've been driving or been in an area where I've seen a black man that looked very, very angry, and I thought, oh, that's probably a really angry guy. And he talked about where that look comes from, where that aggression comes from. Working in the ER as long as I did, I wish that I had known this information because I feel like I could have been more sensitive to some of the people that came in that may have been experiencing aggression or frustration or lashing out in ways that we saw as anger and aggression, but that just may have been somebody who was expressing that out of fear or out of just being worried about what's going to happen to them. So he talked about the wounds of rage and how somebody who's being continuously bullied and after a while just can't take it anymore and snaps. And that made me think that there are a lot of people out there who have this generational trauma or racial trauma that are just very angry and upset about what their family has experienced or what their ancestors have experienced, or and I think that this also applies to people, I think, like me, that are very sensitive to what other people have gone through. I think that, like, when I think about 9/11, I feel like that's historical trauma that still impacts me. Every year when they start showing videos, I have to be very careful because I can become obsessed and I will sit on the couch and cry for days at a time watching these different movies and trying to put all the different pieces together and imagine what that was like for them. So I can certainly relate. So, and then it asks, would you, and if so, how would you use the information on historical and racial trauma in your social work practice? Well, I think that we need to have some more sensitivity around this. We need to have conversations about it. We need to not pretend like it doesn't exist or like that person is just angry. I mean, all feelings come from a need, and sometimes that need is unmet, and that can result in a behavior. And so we have to start taking a look at these things. What do they know? What have they been through? What have they experienced? And talk about them. No, they're not an excuse for bad behavior, but if there's an understanding, if you have people around you who understand and can provide, a sensitive ear to what you're experiencing, then that might curb some of that behavior. And so I hope this makes sense. That the video was really, really touching to me, and it's information that I'm very glad to know, and that I will definitely use in my practice as far as being sensitive to historical trauma and racial trauma, and trying to have a better understanding of what people have gone through and what their experience is, or what their knowledge is of what their families and their ancestors and people in their culture and race and other different like groups have gone through, and how that impacts them and how that makes them feel. Thank you.